on this computer. Beautiful. So what we're eventually going to put this application on the web, right? Is the idea, even though we may not actually put it anywhere that's really public, but the idea is we want to run this and have it. You would assume that you're going to put this application on the web, and it's an API that something will be pinging to, right? And so when you do that, it's going to have like a domain name or a IP address that you're going to go to, right? And so one of the things you got to think about is when you have a website or any sort of application on the web, what do you have to be worried about?
Security, passwords,
Open ports.
Security, open ports, really just what is a general sense for all of those things? So you think about all of the things you have to worry about, it's just attacks, right?
Yeah.
Malicious
People
behavior.
malicious behavior, people attacking your site, or even just trying to pull a bunch of data, just trying to pull data. One of the stories I remembered, and again, this is something we'll probably talk about a little bit more later about those IDs that we have in our deposit in our entities. We'll eventually switch these over. We'll switch this over, make sure we're using like UUIDs and things like that instead of just a standard +1 number where it's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Because it was an interesting story that I found out that a bank had a login page, and they would send you your login link so you could then click on it and you would go, and when you used your link, it would show your email address would be pre-filled. So you would have your email address there in the field, so you could just type in your password. Sounds convenient, right? I don't know if I remember which email account it's associated with. The downside is when a person who is was a site developer looked at the URL he was given, he noticed that the number was just a standard number, like 531 or something like that. It's like, that's an odd number. So he decided to try something. He put in 532, the number right after him, and an email popped up. That was not his. He threw in 421 and another email popped up. He's like, oh, don't tell me these are sequential. And I can just pull a bunch of emails of all the customers for this bank. So he tested something. He got a scraper, simple tool. So who here knows what a scraper is?
In theory, but not in detail.
So one of the cohort 11 students, could you, 12. Tell me what you think a scraper is. Yeah.
Who, me?
You're 11 technically. So why don't I hear the newer ones, the ones that haven't built the scraper before?
I would think that it's something that just goes through and looks for a specific item and reports it back.
Does it just pull all the data from the site?
Can. Jim, how would you word it since you've built one?
Oh boy.
One of our projects, our final projects, was a scraper. So
Keep it pithy.
No, I would go with both of their ideas. You can go in and go and scour a site or a backend or anything on the website. If you can gain access to it, you can go in and get what you want, like one item, or you can just dump the whole entire site into your own possession and do whatever you want with it.
Best way I'd put it is it's an automation tool that will scan a website for data you request. It can automatically navigate through a website and pull specific data off of it. Because I'm sure you've seen it. There are patterns to websites. If you've done a little bit of HTML, you know that there are class names and IDs. So if you know what the HTML tag for the email field is on a form, you can have your scraper automatically go to a page, find the form field, and pull out the text out of it.
They're almost called bots nowadays, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, it depends. Again, bots they'll actually do stuff as well.
Oh, that's true too.
So, bots will actually behave and try to do something, not just get data. So a scraper is a type of bot. A scraper is a type of bot. A scraper is one that pulls data and stores it or pulls data from a website. And there are completely white hat scraper systems. One of our companies, eMoney, that we partnered with on the first one, why our final project was a scraper project in the beginning of Creatives, was because they had a scraper team. Their clients were investors, things like that, or financial advisors, things like that. And so they would have a lot of paid accounts to systems that had data. And they needed that data in one dashboard. And that's one of the tools that eMoney tried to provide, is all your financial information, all your financial advisory information in one location. Now, some of those companies had APIs. They could pop in, log in as the client, and pull the data. Easy. Some of them, of course, did not, because that requires the company to actually build that API to provide that data. So what they would need to do is they would have to log in, automatically log in as the user, pull the data from the site so that they can then display it on their back end for that client. And because these were paid accounts, usually the company they were pulling the data from didn't care that they were pulling it. It's not that they were losing money by them not visiting the site. These were not sites that got paid through ad revenue. These were sites that got paid through memberships. So that's one of those types where you see like a white hat kind of scraping system, where you have authorization to go and pull the data because that data is paid for. Considered gray hat and red hat, gray hat and black hat scraping is when you're scraping from a site that is ad revenue based and then displaying that data as your own for free on your site or with your own ads so that you make money off of data that others have done. That's what you can get in trouble for. So what this guy did is he built a scraper that would automatically go to that URL and just one by one put in each number, and if there was an email in the field, it would pull it and store it in a database for himself. He would then take those emails and send out phishing. He then sent out a phishing email to everyone in that system, trying to say that he was the bank and he needed something from them to prove that they were them. And he was able to send that data to the bank saying, look at all the customers' emails I was able to get and look at how many of them replied back to me. I'm not going to do anything to this. I'm not actually going to do anything negative with this. I'm not going to actually do anything with this. I'm letting you know what is capable and what I was able to do with your setup that you had. So security is key. One of the types of security that is existent just in the internet itself. So this is just an internet-based setup of how the HTTP works. And this is the concept of when you're asking for information from another website, that website needs to be set up to allow you to pull that information from them. And by default, most websites only allow for data to be pulled from itself, so from the same location. So a application running on the same server as another, or on the same domain as another item, they can communicate freely with no restrictions. However, there's a default restriction built into all systems called CORS. Anyone know what that stands for? Know what CORS stand for? It's a fairly common term now in the internet, as we will have this stuff out of the way to get it cleaned up. No one knows what CORS stands for?
Cross origins.
Cross-origin resource sharing. So origin is the origin of the request. So where your request is originating from, and that's your domain name. That can be localhost 8080 versus localhost 9090 are two different origins. So be aware of that. So even a front end running on port 8080 and a back end running on port 9090 can be seen as different origins because they're not the exact same domain. So that's not open. And so they're considered a cross-origin resource sharing. And by default, most HTTP systems have that down as a locked system. By default, if you don't enable cross-origin resource sharing, it is blocked by default. So if we were to get our backend running and we would then create our React application later on and try to access the data, our Java application right now would deny it because they're not on the same domain. That's going to give us issues later. Now, this can be useful in situations where you want a microservice system where you have a service that only wants to respond to another backend service, that you never want a front-end system or a public-facing system accessing this data. This is where cross-origin can be beneficial. You can set cross-origin to only accept requests from certain specific origins that are not its own. But for most front-end systems or most public APIs, you want a wide open CORS. And luckily for us, unlike other systems and in past, it's actually very easy to make our Java applications cross-origin friendly. On every one of our controllers, all we need to do is at the very, very top, add an @cross-origin. By adding just that, it tells it to enable this controller to accept requests from all origins. Sound good? I'll add them to both right now. And if you did want to bring in a specific one, and the term for it, I want to say it's value. I want to say
It's
origins. That's it.
yeah, origin.
Origins. And then you, in here with the right syntax, I want to say it's a list, you can give it, which again, Java uses curly brackets, not the array syntax. They use the bracket syntax. You can provide a list of strings that are domains or origins that you would accept a request from. So this means you still want it fairly secured, but these are the places that can request. So if you know your front end is going to be running on port 8080, localhost 8080, you can put in http://localhost. We'll say 3000, because that's what React tends to run on by default. And this would allow a cross-origin request from localhost 3000 to this system. Any other request would get denied for this controller. Again, since this website is going to be a public-facing API, we're just going to leave it with the default cross-origin. So,
So you
could I
added,
wait? What's that?
sorry, you added it to the controller and
controllers.
also the entity itself. The
No,
account,
just
or
the
no?
two controllers.
Just the controllers. I see.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's a routing thing.
Gotcha.
Specifically, it's a system in the HTTP headers of the response and the request. So this is making it simpler, where because what it does is that when the item sends out the request, it checks the destination to see if it's allowed to pull the data. And if the
Hey.
destination doesn't allow it,
Were
it
you
won't.
able to get that? Because it's saying that it got picked up.
David, you're not muted.
No, sorry.
It's all good.
So,
Yeah, what I was saying. So what happens when you create a request to a website, that website must state that its cross origin is open. Otherwise, your request will not finalize itself, because it's like, no, I'm not going to do it. So it's not even the server that's denying you. It's your system that's denying you as well. It's both ways. So the server won't accept the request, and your request won't finish. It won't do the handshake, because like, I'm not allowed to pull from there. They don't like us. So it's bi-directional. They do that because, yes, some hackers will tell it to ignore that. Will tell the request, don't pay attention to this. But it's two-directional.
what's the Cliff? What's the common error message? You see this when you get this, when you know you need to do this?
Do I have it right now? I don't have one ready at this moment.
I know, like
I
React.
will
is like-
showcase it.
Yeah, like
when we do
no, but
React.
React is what, like when you do React, like cores non-initiated or cores.
It'll say, yeah, it'll say something like cores related error, local. It'll show you the origin, say this is not a recognized origin.
But you'll
or
see
cross-origin.
CORES. You'll see that.
CORS, yep.
That's when you know you have to initiate this, when you're actually working with it.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to key this. This was one of the issues. So I'm actually going to give you guys a little sneak peek into what my very start back into getting into this, my last time that I restarted, because it was something that I almost every year I would start trying to get back into coding while I was a tech support person. Every year I'd remember how much people make from it. I'd see an article about what developers were making and doing, and like, oh, I should try that again. I would start getting into coding and I'd run into a bug. The year before I met Arnell, that was December, I think it was, or November. I was doing it again. Like, I'm going to try this again. I saw that Ruby on Rails developers were making like 80, 90,000 a year up in Boston. I'm like, I want that. So I'm like, I'm going to try again. And the error I actually got was a cores error. And I spent a good day and a half trying to figure it out. And it was that I asked people online, hey, I'm getting this error with something about cores. I have no idea what it is, because it's a complex thing to look into. I posted about it, and yeah, the person sent me a couple articles about cores, and eventually I found the item that said, here's how you fix it on this system. It's like, oh thank God. So cores almost took me out again. I almost went to that. That was the bug I hit, that any other year I normally go, I'll work on it tomorrow. I don't feel like working on it today. I'll work on it tomorrow. Oh, look, a game came out, and I would get distracted for another year. But that year I got it fixed, and it was a cores issue. So that's why I want to make sure to mention some of these items, so that word cores does hit in your head. So you do see that error, you know what to look into and what to try to figure out, how to set up cores on your system.
My friend who's a developer, he just did the React stuff just recently, and myself, numerous of times, we've all hit the cores wall numerous of times. And we have to, you have to just recognize it and then understand like what application you need to allow the cores to allow, or the cross origin to allow to talk to each other. That's all you really need to know.
100%. Yeah. So that's why I want to mention it now and just give you this, that you start putting this on all your controllers moving forward. Again, we'll touch base on it to get a little more again once we do our quick 1 week of React. We do the quick crash course on it. We'll actually purposely turn one of these off just to see what that error message is. All right. So that way you'll see it once, you'll get an idea of what it looks like. So if you ever run into it yourself, you have an idea of what to start researching, what to look into, to how to get rid of that for your project you're working on. But I'll make sure we clear that now, because I don't want anybody having an issue with that later on. Again, that thing is, that can be a pain in the ass to deal with.
Yes.
Fun little side note. That
So-
one's done. What's
So
that?
confirming, yeah, I'm sorry. So confirming, right? This, if you don't have cross origin in your code, people won't be able to scrape from your website, or they won't be able to access your API.
That one. They might not be able to access your API unless you set it up right. It's based on the domain name. So
Okay.
if you do have both your front end being served the same domain name that your API is running on,
Right.
then that'll work, because the request will come from the same domain name. But if you're doing, like I said, like a microservice where your domain is, or your API is running on a separate domain,
Yeah.
then it will likely get declined.
Okay.
So that's why we care about this. Cool. Yep. Okay. Good. So we're good there. Awesome. Yeah. What you would eventually set up in your system is a DNS system, correction system, where you would have your main domain providing the website with a certain route being redirected to another server or subdomain. But yeah, even then, we want to make sure that that subdomain is allowed to cross origin. Yeah. Like I said, we'll play around with this more as we get into React in our local host, and we'll also touch base on it a bit on how OpenShift relates to this as well, why we want our cross origin open. And I'm hoping that when we do that, we'll have the time to even do one where we set a restrictive cross origin, where we only accept a single domain as a location that can pull data from, where everyone else gets denied. So I'm hoping to be able to set that up with you guys through OpenShift and stuff like that, so that you can showcase some basic security knowledge that you might not be masterful of it, but just be aware of it, so that you can at least be ready to learn and dig deeper into it if that's what the company needs you to know. Sound good?
Mhm.
All right. So with that being said, let's talk about the deletes with this item next. So I don't want to start this. For a second, how I want to start this item. So deletions with relationships can be tricky. Any ideas why?
Because it's tied to another piece of data.
It is, right? Let's say one of you guys has been using our Geek Out site for like a year or so, posting posts, and you decide, you know what, I don't want to be on this site anymore. I'm just not feeling it anymore. It got toxic. It's just a bunch of script kiddies on it now. They're not the real developers. Need to get out of here. They're posting just D&D and nothing else. So Keith is like, I'm done. It's turned into a D&D site and I'm good. So you want to leave. So you put in the request to delete your profile, which we have. We have a developer delete field. The problem is, if we delete the developer record, what happens to all of Keith's posts, all of his geek outs in our system?
Well, they turned to, well, I would use the term orphans. They turn to orphans because there's no tie to them. They're just left alone. There's no owner to them.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. We have these records that are just kind of in the database with no ownership to them. Now, that can be something that's a site we might want to do. We can just mark the owner as a deleted user. So we can keep the data that Keith did, put in our system, all that analytical data, all that information, and any conversations that occurred could still be present on our site. So we might be okay with that, but it is something we need to consider and be like, hey, if a developer leaves, do we need to delete all of their geek outs? We don't want to delete their geek outs, but I probably would say we don't want to store his photos anymore on our servers, right? Let's not take up that hard drive space. So we want to delete all the photos that they posted in there, all the photos they've uploaded in their profile. So these are things we need to start taking consideration when we delete items that are part of a relationship. And part of the reason I mentioned this is that you're also going to run into this issue if you ever try to drop a table that has a relationship. So if we ever try to drop the developer table right now, it won't let us because it has the connection, because Geek Out relies on it. It has that one to many. And so because Geek Out requires a developer for any Geek Out to exist, we cannot delete the developer table. Otherwise, Geek Out will break based on how we set up these join columns that we set up. They're all based on developer ID. So because of that foreign key relationship that we have, we're not allowed to drop that table. So these are some things you just want to be aware of. What I will say though, for the Geek Out, that one's going to stay the same. We can delete a Geek Out with no concerns of anything because it may be connected to the developer, but the developer doesn't have to have a Geek Out, does it? No, developer can have no Geek Outs. So I probably could have said that you probably could have created this one, and I wanted to have you guys wait on it to at least discuss that concept, because we might want to go into our developer controller and update this guy and say, hey, delete all of our Geek Outs by this user. What I'm probably going to do though is not do it for our posts, but I'll probably do it for our avatar item. So when we do the developer is deleted, we'll go ahead and delete their avatar record as well for the table. But we'll go ahead and keep the post. We might want to do is also modify this to do what we call a soft deletion, right? So we have this delete by ID, but we couldn't do instead is we could update the record, change the name to deleted, change their email to deleted at deleted.com, or just even clear the email, all that kind of stuff. And that way we can keep the posts that they posted, all that analytical data, all that information. If we want to be kind of like Facebook, if we were storing the data, we could keep like their gender information, their age, and all that analytical data that we've been selling to our suppliers. We can keep all that. That little gray area, right? But part of what I'm doing here is just introducing you guys to the concepts that you're going to see in companies and what things that our companies are going to consider. And while whether or not you agree to these concepts, being aware of them, being able to discuss them in the company is going to make you a better contributor to the company. Just being able to talk about this stuff, about mentioning how you can soft delete things and maintain certain data. This is something that companies at least want to have people that can at least have those discussions. They don't want you to be open to and be like, oh, no, we should steal all of our customers' data. They're not looking for that kind of person, but they want someone that can accurately discuss it correctly and make sure that it's discussed in a professional way of whether or not we can, should, and if it's going to benefit the company or our users by doing this. Make sense?
Mhm.
Because you can argue that there are some benefits to storing some of that data, because there can be useful information that you don't want lost just because someone leaves. I guess I was about to give an example, like that's actually not really useful for it.
With Twitter, if you leave, they give you about 30 days to reactivate your account. So all that's soft deleted for about 30 days if you decide to come back.
Yep. Yeah, that's 100% true. And a lot of times, yeah, when you delete certain things, the soft deletion also allows you to do like a trash bin kind of thing, where if someone deletes something and they're like, you know what, actually I do want it, you can be like, oh yeah, it's still here. It was just soft. Here you go. We can recover it. The funny thing though is that some companies will mark that as a special thing. It's like, oh, you deleted it. We need to go and recover it. So it's like $5 to go recover this item, and all they do is they just trigger a flag that says, oh, it's active again. So be aware of that as a developer now, that there are some companies that will pull off what I want to say, car mechanic type of swindling there. It's like, oh yeah, no, we have to go recover this thing you deleted. It's code. We got to go in and get the ones and zeros and find it and make sure it's still there and it wasn't overwritten yet. And it's actually just sitting in their database with a deleted flag turned on. So you can they just go in, switch it to active, and you're good to go. Just have that in the back of your mind. There's not much you can do to prove that that's what they're going to do, but just be aware that if you ever have that situation, that's probably what's going on. All right. So that being said, with the Geek Out, we're just going to go. I'm just going to do some quick items here. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. So it'll be the, I'm gonna put this here, but I'm also gonna comment this all out because it's gonna be the same as the other one. So I'm just gonna put it in so I don't forget to fill it out later.
Doesn't have to be double quotes.
Oh,
The
yep,
ID.
that's why it's yelling at me. Thank you. So that I'm just gonna comment this out for a second and do. That one just takes a little more time, so I'm gonna do that off camera. If it was something that was just like a one-liner, like the delete is, I'd actually do it. But since I have to go through key by key to check and update, then yeah, I'm not gonna do that one. Delete mapping. Spring. All right, I can ready to delete by ID, and that should not be a capital D. This actually shouldn't update one by ID. Again, are these required names? No, these are just kind of very common names you'll see because it explains exactly what the route is doing and what the benefit is and how it works. So. Oh, also, totally forgot this. Jesus. That guy. So just has the path variable. D repository. Delete by ID. ID. I'll hit there. That's entity. Done, done. So we'll have that. Last thing we're gonna do though, I would want to bring in our repository. So this one I want to bring in next. There's one other one I want to do is do a find all geek outs by the developer ID, of course. So we do have that system. We want to be able to pull all of our posts by a specific developer. So I'm going to head over to our geek out repository. I'm going to do it's already public, so just going to do a list. Geek outs. Find by developer ID. Again, because of how we set up our entities, this should be recognized by JPA repository through our join table and all that. It should be able to find that items because again, we do the find, which is going to tell it to do a select star, where, and then it uses this to pick the where, and then this item here is what they put in. So this should automatically be able to build up our query. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome. So we shouldn't need to put any sort of code here. The factory will build this method for us. Of course, if it doesn't work, we'll do this later with a build out and I'll double check, but I do believe this will work. I tested it earlier and it was functional. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back to our, why are these not much same order? There we go. Put that over here, put that over there. You here and you there. So you have entity.
See the geek out controller again?
I
Oh, there you go.
next. But I like this kind of like order. I like the entity, the repository, and then the controller. Entity, repository, controller. So here we go.
All right.
Do that. Go ahead and do a at get mapping. Geek out dev slash dev ID this time. We'll call it. Oh, we have that nice, very specific item. We don't confuse it with another ID. Our response entity is going to be a list of geekouts. So actually, we see this response entity like this. Again, this one we don't really need the response entity because we're always going to send OK, even if we send a blank item. So you don't necessarily need the response entity here. But again, I want you to get some practice on that. It's just seeing that response entity for most items, at least on one of our items. So this one, I'm going to put it on every single one. And then moving forward on any other controllers, we're only going to put it on the ones where we know we might have a chance to not send a 200. We might need to send something else. But if we're always going to send 200, we're not going to do a response entity. So we do get my dev ID. Variable. Dev ID. By developer ID, dev ID. Boy. I'm just going to return new response entity. Status not okay. Not that. There we go. What's it gonna do? Look good? Makes sense. You guys a second to catch up.
A red mark
Good.
on the thing.
What's that, Jim?
A red mark on the 42. No, it's just my imagination.
No, I don't see one.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I think my screen is just a little.
All good. Yeah, I'm willing to look. I type things wrong. I know it. It can happen. Let's see if this works. Play. Just a run. I didn't change anything on my system, so. Hey, it did load. Postman up. I'll go ahead and reset this back to post 280/API/developers. Make sure that's still good. There we are. Let's switch that quick though to geekouts. See how many we have and what we're expecting. So I have two, one from Jim, one from Travis. There. So what I like to do though, I do want to post another geek out. Actually, I'm gonna do that there when you get. I'm actually gonna do another new. Copy, paste, raw, and make sure you guys pay attention to how we do this. So again, we do this.
Here in
First thing
JavaScript.
I'm gonna do. Thank you. One more down. Or to get the geek out to work, we need to do developer. ID. And it can be 1 for Jim. Everything else will leave blank. All right. Next, we're going to do with title and context. Are the two title and content or content? So, Jim, what's your next post?
I don't know. Hello, career devs.
Oh, so you can talk about cores or OpenShift.
Oh,
You have
yeah,
stuff
no, I
in
was gonna
development
do
you've
something
done
about
recently.
OpenShift for a title, but I was going to do something in the content about OpenShift. But all right.
Hmm.
Welcome to OpenShift.
All right.
And content. OpenShift is a great tool.
For me. All right, we just need content. That's all we're looking for. Let's send on that.
You're
You're gonna
getting
change it to put.
I did get, you're right. Thank you for that.
Put
And it was title and content, right? Yep, good it was.
post.
Not post, not get. Yep. There it goes. Yeah, we do see this at first. We know that it does get that data from the connection.
I got a bad request. I don't know why. Oh, wait a minute. I know why. Never mind.
Title and content. We'll check it. You see it?
I had a comma next to the ID.
Ah,
Like
don't want
two
that.
comma.
Yep, JavaScript is okay with that. JSON is not. No comma on your last item. Make sure it works.
Oh, we got null of everybody of that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's going to come in as null because it doesn't actually send. It doesn't pull that data during the creation process.
Oh, yeah.
We could pull that data if we wanted to. If we wanted to send back the developer data with the new post, we don't need to. We
Yeah.
just want to send the post into the geek out information. So yeah, we could pull the developer information if we wanted to. We don't need it.
We just
Go
need
back
to
here
get-
and do the get here. We'll see that it has all your data there on the next one. So here's your OpenShift. You can see all your
Oh, yeah.
data there.
You just need the ID to make it to make it activate or to make it to
Yep.
associate.
Create that linkage. Yep.
All right.
Cool. So now we have that. So now we have two items from Jim. So now we can try to see if it'll actually do this right. So let's do, it was dev, right? Dev/dev IDs /dev/1. This should give us only the geek outs from Jim.
Oh, there you go.
What do you think?
Woohoo.
Thank you, JPA repositories, right? Still no SQL. Completely working with SQL. And we have yet such a single bit of SQL actual query content. So very, very powerful stuff, especially again, if you set up your relationships right, JPA can handle this for you, can handle a lot for you, as long as you set up those relationships correctly. So this was a bit more complex. We are now able to find all of our items from this. So now we can pull up all that item, all the geek outs from a certain person. So if you view that person's profile, we can pull that up and get that information from them. So very, very good stuff. Good. Are you following along so far? Cool, cool. Awesome. So you got that. So let's look at our item over here. So we got here. So we did our many to one to many over here. I want to save this one for last. This one's gonna be a little more challenging. The complex many to many through a middle one. So I think we might do this one next. I think this is gonna be the next easier one to follow, the many to many. So we do this. We first do the simple many to many, the non-complex many to many, and then later after that we'll do the complex variation where we do this version of it. All right. So we do this one first, and then we'll decide after on Tuesday or Thursday whether or not we do this one or this one next. Sound good? All right, let's build our languages model now, which means, by the way, I know I didn't want to do this right away, but we're probably going to end up having to drop our tables so that we can then rebuild the accounts with the language databases. All right. All right. So let's head over to our model first. A new model, Java class. Class is going to be languages. Yes. Okay. Oh no, language. Sorry, singular. So we're going to do language. Sound good? From here, we're going to go ahead and add what goes at the top of this. That's correct map, but no one heard it, so that's good. Someone else?
Entity.
Entity, yes.
I think we should bring out the Wheel of Doom.
Oh, no.
Jim doesn't like the Wheel of Doom. It doesn't like him.
Jim loves the Wheel of Doom.
I don't have a
Yeah,
problem.
Jim does.
Yeah.
Keith doesn't, right?
That-
Keith's like, nah, the Wheel of Doom will attack me.
The Wheel of Doom is my fiance. I love her.
Keith didn't
I
choose
can't wait till the
Doom.
Wheel of Doom career dev shirt comes out from you guys.
That's a good one.
It's gonna just be a shirt that has a spinner on it. You just spin it.
Yeah, it's got to be landed on Keith's
Yeah, I
name.
was just gonna say
It's the same.
it should be selecting Keith.
It's just the wheels populated with just Keith.
No, I want the version that's like Keith. Keith didn't choose the Wheel of Doom. The Wheel of Doom chose him.
Keith didn't choose it, but it chose him.
Horrible.
We should have a student-driven merch store for career devs.
How interesting that I was just thinking about that in the gym today. I literally was.
We
How-
could give
dude.
all our classroom memes could have a home.
All I want is just
There you go.
drop
A way
it.
to relive your career devs after you get the job. You can spend some of your new job money on alumni merch.
I just want to show up to the gym with a t-shirt and with a line of code in the back and be like, "That's right, I'm smarter than all you idiots."
You just gotta have the binary joke. There are 1-0 people in the world, those who understand binary and those who don't. And everybody's be like, there are not 10 people. That's wrong. It's like, exactly, you are one of them.
I love it.
Love that joke.
I love it.
That is my favorite. Let's see. Let's get that one. Yeah, so we got this. So first thing we're gonna do, yep, we're gonna do our at what is it? ID. Value, and then I do want to address this. So strategy. So this is how you set up the, I gotta pull that up again for me, for myself. So right now, I'm sure you guys have been noticing that doing this item, we've been having the two entities have been sharing the ID number, right?
Mhm.
And those not really great, are they? Yeah, it's better than just having every user be the next number, but they should be that, and we're gonna really hit an issue here later on, right? Correct?
Mhm.
Okay, I show them the same table here. So we have 3 variations that we can do for these that are built in. So you have they're all generated type, generation type. What's that, Jim?
I was just gonna say, one of the biggest issues, if you had to like speak out about an issue of it, is that you don't know what the ID is. You don't know what table it's on because it's just generating, it's just going up the ID. So
Yeah. So the one we've been using currently is this one. It's the default we've been using, the auto. So auto is the default generation type, and yeah, the persistent provider chooses the generation strategy. Next one we have is identity. It's not the most efficient. That's the thing I noticed. Easiest to use, but not the most, doesn't have the best performance. Has an auto incremented database column and lets the database generate a new value with each insertion operation. It's efficient because it's just an auto generator and doesn't require additional statements, but it has an issue. So, but most likely we're going to use right now. This is the preferred one, and we're going to look into this one probably a little later, called sequence. This is a database sequence to generate unique values. It does require additional select statements to get the next value from the database sequence. So there's a little bit more performance in there because you also have to create additional items. You got to create a generator and a sequence generator. So we're not going to cover this one today, but we do want to eventually switch to this one. We're going to discuss some of the sequential systems we can use. All right. Yeah. There's a default sequence, if I remember correctly. Now I'm having a brain flash because I was like, I had my notes with a sequential that I'm building and testing some. I think I might try just to see what it does because we're about to just wipe our database clean. Because I think there's a built-in sequential system already built in through Hibernate. Now that I think about it, you can create a generator and the schema of the database sequence and allocation size of the sequence and all this stuff. So there's a bunch you could do here. But I will say the last one you can do as well is the table. This picks a specific table to be your ID generator, and this one can also have items as well. But yeah, just simulate a sequence. So you give it a table and how it then uses that table to generate IDs. We're going to use identity for today, though. That's not the focus of this lesson. The focus of this lesson is on the many-to-many relationship. So we'll go with this one for now. All right. Oh, right. I have all my notes on that. Ah, dang it. My notes. Where are my notes? Hold on. Yes. Right. I think that's what I wanted. Yeah. There's my notes. Okay, cool. So yeah, that this is going to be again long. Oh, private. All right, what's the fields for our language item?
String for the name.
Yeah, do that. Oh, that was staying. Name. And one more piece of information you could think of. What can we use for another thing for languages? I could argue that we could do this honestly if you want to. So there's long name and private. A lot of languages have like their two known names. They have, you have HTML, you also have hypertext protocol and all that stuff. You have what is it? JavaScript and JS. We have Spring Boot, and so we're just saying SB or Spring. You have SCSS or Sassy CSS. That's literally what SCSS is. It's Sassy CSS. Yeah. Go developers. So you can do that. Not everyone has it, so it's not a big item, but just something I thought of. There's one other item we can consider, and that could just be a tag on it. And so this could be something like front end versus back end versus saying that it's a functional or saying it's a item. So this could be something like that, right? We could also even add a description of the language, right? There's a couple things we could put in. I'm just going to put tag that we can say functional.
Would tag be also a framework?
Could say that, yeah, could do framework, but we could put that way that we could add jQuery to our system because then we could say, oh, this is an actual programming language. This is a framework, because putting Java on your resume and putting Spring Boot on your resume are technically both Java. They're both the same language, but they are very distinct different items, right? And you would want both Java and Spring Boot on your application, on your profile, right? So I actually like that. Yeah, we can use tag to be like, oh, this is a language, this is a framework, this is a library, this is a package, right? Identify a little more. And what's really beneficial of that is we can also do a filter on all of our language by tag, couldn't we? Hey, show me all the front end languages, or show me all the actual, show me all the frameworks, right? Show me a bunch of frameworks. One last thing I'm going to introduce you, a term that I like to give you. Private string meta X. So for the record, X there's a number usually, in most cases. Meta items are items that this is going to be data that is going to be different depending on what the other items are. So whenever you see something called meta, thanks Facebook for ruining this for us, but and metadata is actually a thing. Metadata is data that is related to other information, that the purpose or the meaning behind this field is not set in stone for every single language. So for example, for JavaScript and our tag being language, coding language, our meta would say functional, right? It's a functional coding language. Whereas jQuery would have the tag of framework, and our meta would then be JavaScript. It'll be us letting the system know that this is a JavaScript framework. So in the meta for a language would be, what type of coding language is it? Is it functional, object-oriented, strict typed, whatever kind of compiled, any of those things, right? Where the meta for a framework would be the language that this framework is related to. And so this is something you might see. And I just want to introduce that to you. And sometimes you'll see like meta 1, meta 2, meta 3. And somewhere in your company's system will be an outline of what the metas are, depending on what the other deciding factor is. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So for anybody who's ever heard of metadata and heard of meta and all that stuff, this is where it comes from. It's contextual data. Metadata is contextual data related to other items. Sound good? Cool. I will say in some more complex systems, you might see this. Nope, not that. Object. We can store some other object here. So we could then create other objects for each item. We could create a language object that is different from this one. We could create the framework object and then store the framework, and that would have all the fields for frameworks. So if we want more specified information. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
This is getting a little more fancy. Just again, showing you some things that you might be able to play with in more complex systems. Is this something you need to do? No. My goal is just to kind of plant the seeds of stuff. So when you ever do see like, oh, Cliff mentioned that has something to do with context. Let me go look it up again. I have no idea exactly what he said back then, but he mentioned it. So now I know I can go look it up. Sound good? I gotta go find that video now. Yeah. The funny thing is, yeah, I think I should. Yeah, I showed you guys the cake cooking video for Mario. That one. Remember how the integer overflow thing in the very beginning of Java? I explained that I showed that one because there was a student who ran into an integer overflow issue in their company. And he remembered that integer overflow was a thing. And he literally said, and all of his coworkers would ask him, how do you know about this? And he kept telling them, baking a cake. And he actually messaged me as an alumni on Slack saying, hey, Cliff, do you still have that video for the Mario cake video? I'm like, yes, why do you need that? He's like, because I need to explain to my coworkers why I knew about integer overflows and I want to show them the video. I was like, okay. Because none of his coworkers knew what an integer overflow was. And it was like, that's fascinating, actually, that none of them knew what that was. And you did because of cooking a cake for 4.5 years. Great. So same thing here. I just want to introduce things to you so when you do hear them or think of them later on, you'll have that spark. You're like, oh, I need to go look into this. Cool. So we'll do these for now. This will work for our data. It'll make it work. And we'll use the shortcut now, so we're not doing console stuff. Let's go ahead and generate. We'll start with our constructor. Name and tag, no ID. We're also going to go ahead and generate our default constructor and click by clicking on select none. We have our two constructors now. You guys a second to do those. And we're also going to create our setters and getters for all fields. And we're good. We have our entity. To an extent, though. Now that we have this basic system, I forgot to add the other one. Let's go ahead and add in our many-to-many item. So many-to-many. Nope. I'm typing it in. Give me that one. So this one's a little more complex. First thing we do is the @join table, of course. We do @join table on this one. Because we have this, so as I mentioned before, we can't join them via a column, right? There's going to be a join table now. There's going to be a new table created called language developer, where a language ID and a developer ID are going to be on that table. And so we're not creating a join column, we're creating a join table. That's what this is. The name of that table can be anything you want, really, but we're going to follow the same syntax here we tend to do. This is going to be developer _ language. Only is just the two tables, they're named side by side. And the order doesn't really matter. Pick the one that makes the most sense for you, really. What makes the most sense for that name? Language developer sounds weird. Developer language kind of makes sense what this table's doing, right? So that would be my recommendation there. Next thing we need is the join columns. This gets really interesting. So add join column. Now we do that and annotations. Now we're going to create our join columns. So we have our join column, the first one, and that's going to be equals. And this is going to be one of the IDs. So this one is on, which one am I here? This is going to be, remember because it's, I got to remember the direction now. Make sure my brain works with my notes because I did a different company, but I want to show you what the other item is, by the way, first. So you have the inverse. Oh, right, and the comma, that's why it's not popping up. There it is. Inverse join columns. Another join column. And so this is going to have both of those column names. It's going to have both developer ID and language ID. So those are going to be our two columns. What I need to remember now is which one goes here. I want to say this one is going to be language ID, developer ID. So we're in language right now. And the other one will be developer ID, language ID. So remember.
The stuff that's confusing me too.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I feel like it's wrong to do that for some reason. I'm having that moment of like, right, am I right?
Throw it in, you know what belongs to throw it in 50-50 chance you'll get it right, and you just have to flip it and run it again.
Yes, because this is going to be a set of developers. We have to bring that in. Now let's know what that is in a second. So hold on. Everyone's like, set, that's new. What not list? What's a set? I'll explain that in a second. And then that's gonna be developers. That, and so yes, if I follow my notes right, then this one should, yes, this one should be language. This one should be developer. Like that. So set versus list. So if you already know what a set is, hold off. I think some of the cohort 12 students, cohort 11 students might already know what a set is. So hold your thoughts for a little bit. Let's wait for a second. Let's see if I can lead you guys to guessing what a set might be. So when we say we have a set of something, let's say we're a collector and I have a set of figurines from a TV show or something, or a set of movie, or the set of, let's say, we won't go too geeky. Let's say I have a set of DVDs from a TV show that I really like. What does that mean? How many items do I have?
All the episodes that came out from that particular show, right?
All
Or
of them
seasons,
of that
I guess.
thing.
I was gonna say all of them.
I so you probably have all of them. How many of each do I have?
One.
Oh, one of each.
I have one of each, right? And if I got a second one, am I going to keep that duplicate, or what am I going to do with that duplicate?
Put it in
It's kind
another
of
set.
unnecessary in a set, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to probably sell it or something, right? I'm not going to keep it. It's unnecessary. A set is one of each item, right?
Mhm.
And that is the data structure set. A set is a list, but if we ever try to add the same item to it, it's not going to add it.
It's always unique.
Exactly. Set is a list of unique items. So if you ever need a list of items, but you only want one of each item in it, set is your item. It is a list of unique items.
So it does the checking for you when it goes
Yep.
to add it, as opposed to you having to
Exactly.
write that
You
for it. Got
If
it.
you do developers.add and it says, hey, this already exists, it won't actually add it. It'll say successful.
Oh.
It'll say it added it, but it won't actually put it in. And so it keeps your size limited. So these are very useful to see what items exist in a random set of items, to see how many unique items are there. You can also put a bunch of items in to check to see if they're already there. So when you're going through to say how many unique items I have, you can go through and be like, oh, do I already have this? You just add everything to a set, and then you know how many unique items there are.
This username is already taken.
Yep. That can be useful too, yeah. The other ways for that. We do have the, I almost forgot to mention this, by the way. So the unique constraint, by the way, so there is a field that you want only one of its kind in that field. You add that annotation. So later on, we do the users item. Our email field will have this unique constraint attached to it. So that's why I didn't bring it up yet. We are going to use that later. This does make sure that our list doesn't get over flooded with stuff. So we don't need a developer having JavaScript, right? We just want to make sure that if a developer has a language, they only add it once. And if somehow they attempt to add it a second time, it's going to say, sure, yeah, we added it, but not actually put it in the set. And so they don't show up with JavaScript multiple times on accident. That's the difference between a set and a list. And this is, again, one of those other data structures we talk about. We talk about lists, we talk about stacks, queues, and now you have set and map, right? Yeah, hash map too. So now you have 4 data structures that are all list-based that you are now at least aware of. Are you masterful of them yet? No, we're gonna do that later. We get into algorithms, but these are data sets and these are data structures you want to know about. So we get to the algorithms, you're like, ooh, I need a list of unique items. Set. You should jump to your head and be like, I know what I need. Sound good? All right. That's our first item. So this is going to create, and what this does, yes, this is going to create another table in our database called developer language, and it's going to create that connection between the two. I'm sure you can guess we need this somewhere else, don't we? Let's do this side by side. I'm going to bring up our developer entity. I'm going to add yet another relationship now. Many. That table. I will clarify one more thing, by the way. This part here and this part really is only necessary if we want to search for those items under this repository and we want that data available to the developer. You can have, especially a one-to-many, like our geek outs can have that one-to-many, and the developer doesn't need to know about the fact that there's a list of geek outs here. Doesn't need to know those things if we're never going to search based on it, if we're never going to search through the repository. So be aware of that, but it's good practice with these there so that when you're looking at the entities, you know what relationships are there. They're just useful. So name is going to be identical. Join columns is going to be the opposite of that one. Inverse is also going to be the opposite of the other one. So join column, name. Again, we'll do a set languages. And I'm also now comment out our array. Now I'm going to do some interesting stuff here. So I'm actually going to delete this constructor and regenerate it. So I'm just going to delete it and regenerate it. All right. Let's get rid of that. Generate constructor. Select all those items and click OK. I also forgot to make that private. And I didn't import set. There we go.
You have to do the other one too.
That means that didn't work, did it? Nope, it didn't work. So I got to regenerate again. Oh yeah, I didn't do it here either. The language items, so I got to do that again too. Okay, we'll do that in a second. Constructor, everything but ID. Click OK. At the very, very bottom, I'm just going to recreate these two language items. So those. Generate getter and setter. Oh, and our geek outs. We didn't create one for the geek outs? All right, we'll do that. Put that in there. And over here on our language side, we're also going to do that again. Yeah, let's go ahead and delete this one. Regenerate. Constructor. 3.
You didn't do the private again on line 20.
I didn't. That was not as, it was not as bad as me not typing the capital T, but yeah, definitely want the private there. Scroll to the bottom and, oh, that's double shift. What does that do?
Oh,
Interesting.
it's like a search engine type deal.
Something. It double hitting shift twice opens this weird thing. So, all right,
Yes, yeah.
interesting.
I just
New stuff. That's cool. That's a way to make sure you're not having to use the mouse, isn't it? Yep, it is. I can create a new class, file, symbols. That's interesting, actually. All right, I'm not going to get into that. Just like I've always been wondering how I get that to pop up because it just pops up randomly. Now I know. Double shift. All right, getter and setter. Our developer is set. There we go. There we go. Our entities are now good. Let's create our language repository. So I have a class, this time interface. I'm actually going to click it this time. Language. I'm going to shrink this. I don't know why it makes it so long all the time. Go ahead and extend. What am I extending again?
KPI repository.
Repository, and what goes in the curly brackets or the angle brackets again? Sanity check.
Language and long, is it?
That's good. Yep. The entity and then the ID data type. Good. Looking good. All right. Build our controller now. A class. Reg. Controller. All right, we have 3 items to add here. First one.
Rest controller.
One, good. What else?
Cross origin.
New one. The last one.
Quest mapping.
There it is. I'm gonna do API / Regit. Those words that just like I always feel like I'm typing it wrong. Do our next one. What's our next item we need to bring in?
The repository, but did you make one yet? Oh, yeah, you did.
There we
Yeah.
go.
All right, yeah, auto wire.
Auto wired. Language repository. Repository.
Private.
And get that private. Yep. There we go. Because the auto wired, we don't initialize it. All right. Let's do the first one. We're going to do an at get. In our, this time, so like I said, this time we're only going to use the request request entity when there's a chance we're not going to return to 200 OK. And since this is our get all, because this is our get all, even if there's no languages in our system, we're still going to return a 200 OK with just an empty array, right? We're never going to return a 404 not found. Is there any chance for the user to enter a bad request? No, so 401 is not needed. Are we creating anything? So 201 is not needed. Is there any situation that we might not send 200?
If it turns into a teapot.
I would have to wonder how does it turn into a teapot, but sure. There's just a random number generator in there. If the random number generator is divisible by 20, it says I'm a teapot. There you go.
There doesn't seem to be, to me, it doesn't seem to be any, no.
No, and that's the true case. As long as they hit the request and the code doesn't crash, we want to return a 200. So in this case, we're just going to do a list languages. Let's import that. Go. All. We're just simply going to return repository.find all, done and done.
All right, so I have a question on this.
Yes.
So how much more logic, or what would you put in here if there was nothing, if there was no languages in there to return the response saying this developer currently has no languages?
Well, this isn't a get language by developer though, and even then, we wouldn't send anything back. We would just send the empty array and let the front end decide to say what it
Oh,
wants
yeah,
to say.
true.
So the front end would decide how to respond to that.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
us. Our APIs just be like, yep, here's nothing. I got an empty list for you. They don't have anything.
yeah.
This is returning the list of languages that are available, not the developers yet. So this would be, we would use this to get all the languages for the drop-down menu, for example,
Okay, yeah,
in
that's
the form.
I get that, but
Do a get mapping one, so we'll do a get one, even though we really don't need it for this one. So get. Now, is there a chance for this to not return something or to return something other than a 200? So we're now going to be asking for a language by ID.
Yeah.
Are we creating something? No, so no 201. Could the user give us a bad request?
yes. Well, wait, well,
Kind of. So
Kind
again,
of.
we're not getting data,
Yeah.
we're not getting body information. So the user's not really sending us the information. And it's not going to be invalid information. Is what we're not expecting that. Is there a chance they could ask us for an ID number that doesn't exist in our system?
Yes.
Yeah.
What number is that?
404 not found?
Yeah, it's a
That's
404
the-
not found.
yeah, I'm gonna say that's the meme one. Yeah, 404. I love how 404 is the meme and not I'm a teapot. I can't wait for all of you now to have an I'm a teapot shirt now. There we go. We got the Wheel of Doom or Wheel of Death and the I'm a teapot shirt.
Keep them coming, man. We need that initial merchandise patch.
And the I'm a teapot will actually be ASCII art in your code. We'll use some of your code to actually shape the teapot in the shirt. Man, he seems like that idea. He looked up like that sounds awesome. All right, so that one, yes. So that one we might have a chance of sending a not 200. So this one we're going to do a response entity. However, if we do get something, we're going to send back a language. So in this case, again, I don't necessarily do this because you do have the find or throw, but I do want to show this option, this concept of not actually getting it and doing a conditional instead. So I want to show the other variation that doesn't use the or else throw. So I'm going to do it this way. So language.
You're just getting this though. You're not actually asking for an ID to.
All right. I do need to add that. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
It was going to conflict anyway with the previous one. So this was going to conflict with this one.
Yeah.
And it would have caused an error anyway.
Just wanted to make sure that we were on the same
Thank
page.
you. Yeah, you're right. Variable long e. I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do first repository. B, come on, ID. And let's see what this actually says it returns, by the way. So do that and then ID. And what does it actually return? Find by ID, come on. What does it return?
Turns an object.
Not an object, what's it say?
I can't read it because I have a thing behind it. Oh, there we go. It's object language.
Oh, right, that the friggin' Zoom.
Yeah, the Zoom thing. I see it. No, I see it. I just.
Yeah, but let me go ahead and switch it back over anyway, though. I'm gonna bring it all over here. I don't need this dual screen right now, so go all over. We need app application open. So let's do that. We'll move language over here at the front right now because that's what we're working on. Language repository next, and then language controller last. There we go. Let's do that again. Find by ID. And what is the data type that it's going to return?
Oh, optional language.
Yes, it returns something called an optional. So that's letting us know, hey, we might not get, we're gonna, if we return something, it's gonna be a language. But we also might not get that. It's possible that this object will not be a language. And so we use that, that means we have to store it as a optional space. Optional language. See what we got there? So now you see why I kind of had you guys create all your Boolean type fields or Boolean type methods is this or has. As you can see, that is a common concept to do. I'm not crazy. Maybe a little bit, not entirely. So you can see that the optional class has something called is empty. And so we can actually run that condition. And if it is empty, we can do a return response entity null. Again, language, a object can be null. So we can return null, comma, HTTP status. Not found. So far, so good.
So this is a different way of doing the or else throw if it couldn't find
Exactly.
one. Okay.
This is using that. This is not using the throw system, but instead having you guys handle it. So I just want to show the other way of using it, another way of doing it. So, and now, do I need the else here?
You already returned it, so I would say no.
Right.
You else.
For that, if returns are your friend, with an if return, you do not need else. We only hit this if you only hit line 34 if the if statement fails. It's true. The method ends. The method will not continue. By hitting this line again, logic deductive reasoning of our code flow, you can only hit this line if this fails. So that means we know that language is not empty. That means we can do a return. What's the trick for this again?
There's a .get.
There it is. I was looking for that. Yeah, I was like, I think it's die. I couldn't remember the name of it, but yeah, I knew it was there. I totally forgot the name. Thank you. Oh, right. New entity, delete, comma, HTTP status. Okay. I will say this is not yelling at us because Java recognizes that we did this. I do believe that if this wasn't here, it would tell us that we didn't test. Yep, see.
Yeah, I thought we had to do that.
Yep.
Like in the repository, we had to do like a little find by ID.
Well, like I'm saying here, you can see there, it says optional get without is present check. So you do have that system there that is checking to see if you're testing for either is present or is empty. It's looking to see, hey, did you confirm that this isn't bad? Because if you do a .get on a is empty item, you will crash. You'll get the no such element exception. So always be careful of that. And that's what's nice about your IntelliJ is that it will try to warn you of those things. So yeah, I'm going to put a little comment up here. Use find by ID dot or else throw. Normal. Make sense? So this is again just showcasing a alternative version and kind of what the complex version of that or else is doing, where it says, hey, if I don't get it, send this back. This is pretty much what it's going to send back. All right.
Well, you'd almost want to use this if you wanted to do a more complex.
Yeah. Especially if you also wanted to send back, if you wanted to do a find or create concept. So there is this concept that let's say, hey, we want to find an ID, find this item, but if it doesn't exist, let's create it instead. So that is a system that can be done. There is reasons to do this, that if you don't want to just instantly send a not found if you look for something. You could also have it where they send a couple items and you can do a find by one until you find the first one, right? So it's a couple things you can do with this. It's just good to know that you don't have to do a find by ID and immediately throw if there's nothing there. You can test to see if you found something and either search again or do something. So if you in there. All right. So in this case, the last thing I want to ask is the purpose of the language is that we can have developers add languages. Now the question is though, are we going to have we're going to do a language add or are we going to do a developer add? So where should the route most likely go? Is who's going to be adding what to themselves? Is the language going to add a developer to themselves, or is a developer going to add a language to themselves?
A developer's going to add a language.
So it probably goes in the developer controller, doesn't it?
Yes.
I would think so. A developer is going to say, hey, give me this language. I have this language. Double shift again because I want to hit enter. All right. I'm going to do what's called a put mapping again. So this is going to be another updater. This is going to be a way to update an existing developer record. I'm going to add a language to that. So we're going to do put mapping / language. That would be public. So again, think about this again. So is there a chance that we're not going to get, that they're going to ask us to add a language to them that doesn't exist?
Yes.
So again, we're going to do that response sensitivity then, because we might need to send back that 404 saying, hey, that language doesn't exist.
Well, under normal circumstances, though, if it doesn't exist, it shouldn't be automatically created and put in.
What's that?
Like, oh, well, that would be the front end too. I see. I always
Right.
get confused with the front end, sometimes the back end type things.
Yep. We would just send back the 404 and the front end will tell the user, hey, this doesn't exist.
And then, but then it should create a new one and automatically put it in.
Should it create the language? Because what if they don't find it? Because again, they're just sending us an ID number of the language they want to add, not the language name. They're sending us an ID number of the language. Because again, what we're going to do is going to pull all the languages down, put it in a drop-down menu. They're going to select one. And so our front end is going to know the ID number of each of those languages. And so it's just going to select a bunch. And then all it's going to do is send us a list of languages. And so you kind of ruined it a little bit for me, but
no, I was just about the way you were doing this was just like, well, what happens if we have to do? Well, that's if I put a new one in there, she'd be automatically create one. But I guess if you just do it in different steps to different ways, it's okay. I'll just let you go. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Today though, we're going to do a add one, but we're going to do tomorrow because we're getting close to the 8 o'clock. Oh yeah, 8:30 already. So, damn it, I was trying to get to an hour and I'm not getting there yet. So this is gonna be the last one we're going to do. But tomorrow, my goal is to introduce the put multiple. We don't want to add multiple languages by creating a list. We're also going to want to be able to add multiple languages to a user at the same time. We also want to be able to add multiple languages to our system at the same time. So when we're updating our system, let's say some users said, hey, these languages don't exist, we want them, we can add a whole bunch to our language in a single run. So we can get a list, a collection of languages to add at the same time. So we can send in our request in our body of our post an array of languages. We'll add them all. Those are the two new routes we're going to introduce.
Sorry. Does this put mapping need a path variable on it also?
We can accept it in the body, right?
Oh.
Yeah, most put mappings, the data's in the body. Oh, I think you're thinking of the idea of the developer, aren't we?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And that's right.
Okay.
Well, again, we could accept that in the body as well. So it's not a big deal because we are, again, for put, we do need the developer of the updates potentially, or we can just at least accept the developer ID. But I'm going to show you how we're going to do it that way because I'm going to show you how it actually works. So yeah, we aren't going to do it. So I'll send back the developer, the updated developer. Add language at body developer. This one, again, we're just going to do simply developer again. Repository dot and by ID. We'll do the or else throw this time. Yeah. Oh, God damn it. Wait.
You don't have an ID to refer to.
If we're
I
putting
did
it
do
in the sent
Oh, right, I
JSON,
did
though, we
that
can
way,
pull it
yeah.
out of.
I could do it there again. I guess I probably should copy what I did before, I guess, and do it in the put mapping, I guess. Like I did here.
Right, that's what I was thinking. But if we're putting it in updates, we
Yeah.
can just do updates.getID.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll show the other way again. Yeah, so we'll do that. And or else throw. Response status exception. HTTP status found, and this is the not we didn't find the user, of course. This is not the language. Be aware of that. This is we didn't find the user. Let's move this next to developer dot a minute. I'm having a blank on this. I did do this right. Where's my notes? Add to success set languages, but I'm trying to remember that I want to set the language by adding these items, not by overwriting them. Because I could do that way. I don't need to do it this way if I wanted to, just to prove a point. I could always just do list language and accept a list of languages as well, instead of the whole developer object. There's two ways there's two ways I'm thinking of doing this. I'm trying to remember. How do I merge two sets? Can I merge? I think we can do a set dot add. Merge, JavaScript, Java. Add a set to a set. I think it's add all. Yeah. So what we actually do here is we do. Yeah, I know what we're gonna do. Right, I remember now. Okay.
There it is. Yep.
I remember it. Developer dot set languages equals
Did you do like update?
I'm trying to think if I can do it in line. Hold on.
Yeah, you can. If you do developer.getLanguages.addAll. Oh, not in there, I don't mean. So instead of .set languages, you could do developer.getLanguages.addAll.
Yes, that'll give me the set. Right, you're right. Yep, that's what I'm thinking. Yep, I was like, I know I can. Thank you. And like I said, I don't actually watch my notes like side by side, so I have to go scrolling to find it. I'm like, I know I can do this with the add all updates dot get languages.
Yes.
Beautiful. That should do it. That'll get the language, then update the language, the set with the new set. And then I'm going to do ahead and do developer dot, sorry, repository dot save. Return repository dot save developer.
Don't like something.
Oh, returns, wait, that returns a response entity?
No, you
Oh,
set
I
it to
need
return response
I
entity.
did, right, because I wasn't gonna do the RX throw. So since we do the RX throw, we actually don't need the response entity, so we can actually get rid of it then. Nice.
Oh.
Nice. Good. This is the benefit of the RX throw again. There we go. Cool. So got that. I'm gonna add 2 languages to our database right now, and then we're gonna be able to give Jim both of them and one of the other guys in our system the other another one of them. So we'll do that. But again, this is gonna this will actually add more than one. Nice, awesome. Yeah, let's do it. So hop over to our item here. Let's go ahead and do http://localhost 8080. I'll put the developers for the moment. Now I'm just going to switch to language. Oh, I also need to reboot the server, don't I?
Mhm.
Do that. There we go. Good. Language. We're going to just go ahead and hit send. Just make sure we get our empty array. Make sure it all works. Oh, I didn't find it.
It's not booted up yet, probably.
Oh yeah, probably. And I think, did I do language or languages? Languages. Yep, I forgot plural. The route is always plural.
Oops.
All right. Switch this to post, body, raw, JSON. Name, person will add in Java. What's our tag for that? You do like oop or coding language. What do you want to say? Oop. I'm good. Send that in. Wait, what?
That's not allowed.
Right. Did I not create the post mapping for languages? Actually, I don't think I did. I did the get and get one, didn't I?
Oh, wait a minute, yeah.
I did.
Oh, that'll do it. That'll do it every day of the week.
Yeah, that definitely will do it. So this is gonna, yeah, this is gonna create, so we don't need to worry about it. We're just gonna go ahead and return a language. Add, create one. Body, language. So we're gonna do return repository.save new language. I should be entirely honest, I'm surprised it didn't yell at me for the change to my database actually, because I changed the language table, didn't I? The language column. This might actually not work. We'll see what happens. And if it doesn't, we'll go ahead and we'll clear our database in a second. To
Oh,
make sure
it
that's not
works.
a problem.
It works.
I'm curious to see what it's going to do.
Just has an empty developer array, but it should work.
Send. Still, oh wait, reboot. Do. There it goes. Open up. And
Oop, more like oops.
yep. Oh, yeah, because of the update thing in the application properties, it'll probably just rewrite the whole language table column. and that's just done. That was perfect, Sergio. That's gonna be a one to go down. All right, that's it. Send.
Good old
Beautiful. So you can see here, we got ID, name, tag. No developers are currently in it, so we're good there. Let's go ahead and add another one. We'll go ahead and add JavaScript. What kind of tag do we want to add for this one?
Isn't it oop as well? But
JavaScript is not oop.
Is it
it's not. Oh.
scripting?
Could say scripting. We could also do it's a functional language.
Oh, right.
Well, all languages are functional. If they don't, they would never work.
Not necessarily. Again, this is JavaScript is functional. It has no OOP. It's not OOP centric. It's functional centric. You can't do anything without a function. Java is OOP because you can't do anything without classes, without objects. There is also something called pure functional, which is something like Haskell. So you have that, and you
I
have.
think
You
you
can
meant
also call it,
functional as in it's working.
Yeah, he was being funny.
damn it! God damn it! Yeah, as soon as you said that, I'm like, yep, nope, I see what he's doing now. And
Oh,
again,
and the
even
ID
this-
numbers are going up sequentially. Nice.
Oh yeah, look, ID 1, not the after the other developer. So we got that one. Let's see what this one gives us. JavaScript. Send again. Hey, number 2.
Nice.
Good stuff. If I just to see what happens now, if I bring this back to do developers again, by the way, I actually just hit send because we want to see what happens.
Ooh.
I was afraid of that something changed because of the geek out with the developer thing.
Oh, I've seen that happen. The lists are nested now.
That's what was happening to me.
That happened with my car rental thing. Travis, when I sent you the message about the issue, that's what I was having.
This is
It's
fascinating.
because you added the getters. You
Can't-
didn't have them before, so you didn't
Right.
notice it, but it was having that.
Weird. That's what the setter did and the getters did, huh? All right, let's kill those things. I was curious what those did because I didn't have them before, and I was like, those are fine.
Oh, geez. I also have that. All right. So I have to get rid of the.
Yeah, so I don't know which one should have the getter. Should the I'm thinking the main one, right?
I don't see if it's the setter that's actually causing the problem on this one, maybe. Let's find out. You know, we'll do some testing. Let's get rid of one. See what it does.
Which one did we get
Testing,
rid of?
Experimentations. I got rid of
We
the
got rid
setter
of the setter of the geek outs.
Set geek outs. Got it.
on developer. Yep.
Yep. Refresh.
Let's go back. Let's hit send again. Still got it. Let's undo and get rid of the getter then.
Okay.
Shouldn't do that though. That's weird.
It's because one of them has the object and the other has a list of that same object.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
That's weird. That is strange. There it is. All right, we fixed it. So it's the
So you get rid of the setter.
the getter. The getter. Yep, the get geek outs. We want to get rid of. So we're probably going to get rid of get languages too. So let's get rid of get languages as well, because that's another.
So we
collection.
shouldn't be
So in
getting those.
developer-
What's that?
So we shouldn't ever be getting those.
No, I can't do that because I used it.
No,
I
no.
need this.
So no get languages, no get geek outs.
No, I can't do that because I need that because I used it. There's a chance I might have to make it then make the item public though. I could do that. So you know, let's leave the get language for now. We're gonna get rid of the get geek outs. I need to look more into that because I feel like the get geek outs shouldn't do that. So I will check on that later. I feel like that's wrong. And I probably have something wrong in my code. I will check on it. All right. Yeah. So now we'll use that just so we can get clean information. But yeah, wondering if we're gonna get that problem with the languages, but I will check on that for later. Let's do that. So for that, let's go ahead and now we're gonna do is we got our devs and yeah, languages is now an empty array, which is what we expected. Good. So yeah, the update on the application properties, when it notices that the language entity had been modified, it deleted the existing language entity table column and added the new languages column. That is now technically empty for all of our developers. Yay, I'm glad that JPA handled that well. Let's go ahead and put a new language on one of our developers. So host 8080 API developer / language, do a put body JSON. All we need is the ID of the developer. So we're going to do Jimford first, ID 1. Everything else is going to be blank. We're then going to do languages. I'm going to add an array of languages. ID. Java and JavaScript, right, Jim? Want to add both?
Yeah, add both.
All right. ID 1. By the way. Two. So adding both languages. All right. So far, so good.
Mhm.
Let's see if that works. Ready? Bing. And we got the never-ending list. Oh God. Please don't tell me this broke it.
Yeah.
Promise this is gonna break our code because we go back to the developer key item here.
Oh yeah, because it's a get languages and then it gets the
And developer controller. So maybe make languages public. Wait, what? Oh, wait. Did it run this one actually? Oh, it ran this. I think it did. I think we ran this mapping because of the ID, the language string was taken as ID, I think. I wonder. I got an error message here. Look at that.
Oh yeah.
Forgot about that little guy. Move that above so that it triggers first. Or reboot. I'm gonna put that back though, by the way. Hold on. Again, I feel like that should be there. Not that. Developer. Back for a second. Play. But let's just see if it just broke a gem. Oh, still loading. There it is, loaded. Let's get actually API developers run.
Cannot get invalid character chunk size. Ooh.
Yep, it broke your table. It broke your row because it tried to add that infinite list to your table, and it broke out.
Yeah, it's because the language has developers, and then that causes an infinite chain.
What does?
So if I'm understanding this correctly, it gets the developer, which then has the list of languages, but the language also has the developers inside of it, and then that causes an infinite spiral.
Got it.
Recursion.
Yep.
Yes.
So I had this happen with the vehicles in the store because I had each of them having a relationship like this, and this is exactly what happened.
Well, let's try this thing quick. Go back to our developer controller. We also need to clear that then. Go into the database and actually clear that row. I'm curious who else ran that. So
Oh, okay, you made that public. Okay.
if you guys want, you can wait till this works, by the way. So you don't need to run it right away in case I break my database more, because I'm going to need to connect my database now. Because I'm just trying to clear out Jim's language table or language item. SQL. That's not work right. Hold on. No, I don't want to do that actually. I won't delete or drop any. I might have to just delete the because again, this is a many with the language table. Oh, geez. There is no item in. Oh, what? Oh, actually, that looks accurate. So, hey, look at that. It actually did it right. So my database is actually not effed up. Thank God. It's just displaying badly. Okay. So that's at least nice to see. That's at least good to know. I see what you're doing. Now I know what it's doing. Yeah, the setter is what tells it to include that item in the return body without any sort of additional object. That's annoying. That's something we gotta look into again. So yeah, I wouldn't want to talk, I didn't want to review that yet, and we're going to review that soon, is how to get unique data or only get limited data from a database, because like we said before, sometimes you have extra data inside of your table that you don't want the user to see technically. And so we want to make sure we're only pulling down that data that we want the user to have. So like I said, the likes, we want to know who liked it, but not how many times they liked it. We don't need to send that to the front end. And we've mentioned that part of that is because of data sniffing, right? I've talked about data sniffing, right?
Yeah.
Why you don't want to go and log into your bank at Starbucks because someone might be sniffing the packets. So same thing here. If we just because we send the data down doesn't mean that someone can't see it. And actually, one of the what is it, Darknet Diaries episodes mentioned that concept. It was one of the, I think it was the one to do with the airplanes, the British Prime Minister or something like that, like the old British Prime Minister he posted his boarding pass on it. And so using the boarding pass number, he was able to log in, and in the source data, the developers will find that person's personal phone number and passport number, because that data was sent down with the database and it was stored in the information. So he was able to get some of that person's personal information that should not be there. So we are going to be talking about that later. How do we make sure that we store this data, but we only pull and send down to the end user specific pieces of data. So that's going to come in another later lesson near the end. That's one of the last things we're going to discuss pretty much. But that's part of the problem we have here, is that it's bringing in everything. And as you're right, it does this kind of nested item. When you pull Jim, and Jim has the language array, and the language has the language set, and the language set, each language has Jim listed as a developer, and then Jim has his languages listed, and so you just have this infinite loop of each item grabbing itself in this never-ending cycle. So that's why we need to get rid of those setters and those getter the setters and stuff in the getters. So I think the getter is fine. It's the setter, I think. The getter might not work. But anyway, we remove that. This should now work, I believe. It is running right now. So let's go ahead and do get developer, send, and see if it yells at me. Wait, didn't I delete it? Oh, right. Over here in language 2. I need to get rid of set developers, right? So in language, get rid of set developers. Am I running it? No? Why do you yell at me?
I think it's the getters.
This worked 2 seconds ago. Cannot call send error after the response has been committed, but I didn't send an error after response. Huh? one more time. Hold on.
There's
Let
an
me check
error
the-
message above that.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it again in a second if it happens again. Fine, you know what? Let's get rid of the getters too.
I think you can have the setters, just not the getters, because they're getting each other.
Yeah. That
Oh, I
makes
kept
sense.
this set here too. I kept these. Oopsie. All right, we'll get rid of them both. It's fine. We didn't actually use them, so it's fine. We don't need them. So let's test it. I don't think. Oh, wait, hello. What?
It can
Oh,
set
oops.
language each setter.
Done. I made language public, by the way, just so you know. Again, once this works, I'll have you guys update your code as well. That looks fine. Let's see. And it's happy. Okay, so yeah, get rid of the
There,
setters and getters, the
nice.
collections.
Okay.
That looks good. We have both languages there. Let's head back to this guy, and we're gonna go ahead and give someone else a language. Who are our developers? Who do we have? Travis, what language do you want? We'll give you one just to make sure we can do one. Unless we want to add another language to our system, I guess. I guess we could put another language in. Let's see.
Java.
On Java. All right, we'll give it an ID 2. No, actually do this for you. Let's do this. Spring boot. Homework. Send that in. So we'll give you ID 1 and ID 3.
You guys set his ID.
Cool.
All right, and you are ID 2, I think, right? Yep, good. Send that. And there you are.
There you go.
Beautiful little setup there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep, and then in both of these, we can actually then also set up in our systems, in our repositories, both developer, we can say, find developer by language. And we can also do in our language repository, find by, find developer by language here, or find developers by language. We could pull the developers by language, actually. I actually don't even think we need that here. We can just, yeah, do that. But yeah, I'll show more routes tomorrow. What I want you guys to do though for tonight and tomorrow in the first hour of tomorrow class is to do the, where is it? Customer to store.
Okay.
So that's the relationship you're creating there. So we did the languages, the developer,
Mhm.
you're doing customer to store.
Okay.
That is your many-to-many non-complex. All right, so everything we did today, you'll be able to do that. So again, set, because again, the customer only needs to be tracked in that store once. We don't even know if we want to store how many times they go to that store. We can always add that later on. That's a good, but that would turn into a complex many-to-many. So again, use a set. Get rid of those setters and getters for your lists. So make sure those aren't there. And also for because I did do some changes with the putters, we may also want to turn some of these lists into public so that we can modify them and adjust them, edit them. So that's how I was able to do the merge the lists by going ahead and doing by making languages public. And in the developer controller for both our put language and put ID, I changed our I did developer.languages.addAll updates.languages. And in here in our putter, we did updates.languages null, developer.languages equals updates.languages. Sound good? However, what I will most likely do is I'm actually probably going to get rid of this because I don't want the user updating their language through this system. I most likely want routes of adding a language and deleting a language. So that's already 904. We'll do that tomorrow. So we're actually going to create another delete mapping under here called delete mapping language. And so we will do delete a language by ID, and we will remove that mapping from that. All right. So we'll do that tomorrow. For now, you guys want to just go ahead and create your store entity. So that means you got to create your store entity now. That doesn't, wait, you already have the store entity. Nice.
Yes.
So you have the store entity and you have the customer entity. So no entity creation today. That's kind of nice. You're just going to create your many-to-many record between store and customers. So that's the only thing you have to add there, your customer many-to-many and your store many-to-many. You already have the store repository. That's good. And you're just going to create those routes. You already have the get maps. But yeah, so you have a lot of things already built with the store item. So really, you're just going to add in that item of on either store or customer. So you get to decide where does this add, are you adding the customer to the store or are you adding the store to the customer? So you guys get to decide that. You could also do both. In that one, that could be something we could argue you could do both ways. You could do both routes, adding the store to a customer or adding a customer to a store. Make sense? So just to clarify, what we did here is we added a language to a developer. That's why we did it here under the developer controller. So we added a language to a developer. If you want to add a developer to a language, we would do that in the language controller. Make sense?
Mhm.
All right, cool. So that's pretty much, I think that's all you got to do is just add in, add in. So be able to add, being able to add a developer, a customer to a store or vice versa. Sound good? So not a difficult homework, actually really perfect for our Monday to Tuesday homework assignment. So that worked out really nice. Awesome. With that being said, I'll go ahead and end this so that we can get that recording. Any questions?
No, just is the homework assignment going to be in classroom for tonight?
Let's do that now.
Perfect.
That's tomorrow. Whoever's doing that outside, please stop.
Can you push that to your repo also, please?
Oh yeah, of course.
You can end recording now.
Unless I kill the meeting, it won't start processing, but I can at least stop it. So
Oh,
go
I
and start